The Mises Institute. In 2007, the Institute's annual revenues were $3.583 million, and its expenses were $2.852 million. The expenses went to programs, 75.5%, what are programs, administration, 13.6%, and fundraising, 10.7%. It does not receive public money. What kinds of programs are they talking about? We can look at their site. We can see their site here, 2012. What are some of the programs they have? They have lots of classes. Okay, they have lots of... let's look at the classes here. Mises Academy. Current course listing. I'm just looking at this right now. Principles of Economics. Robert P. Murphy. Classical Economics. That's what they have right now. They rotate classes in and out. Faculty of the Academy, complete course catalog. Let's look at the course catalog. Let's see what they have regularly. Taking a little while to load here, the course catalog is. Alright. Classical Economics, Principles of Economics, The Betrayal of the American Right and the Rise of the Neoconservatives, The Political Economy of War, The Totalitarians, How to Think, An Introduction to Logic. Economic Thought Through the Ages, Freedom and Federalism, the Libertarian States' Rights Tradition, Mises on Money and Banking, How to End Unemployment in One Day, by Walter Block. I have no doubt that Walter Block can figure that out. The typical libertarian can figure it out. Get rid of the restrictions. There you go. There's your answer. Get rid of minimum wage, get rid of the restrictions, unemployment gone. Or involuntary unemployment. Or voluntary unemployment gone. Big business and the market, friends or foes. And by voluntary unemployment, I mean that in the terms of, you know, the only job you can get is $2 an hour and you're choosing not to get that job. That's voluntary unemployment. Anyway. The Real Causes of America's Wars, a revisionist view. Libertarian ethics. Economic freedom around the world, money monopoly, market intervention, the fiat money crisis, the market, the central banks, and the coming monetary breakdown, Obama's patent reform, improvement or continuing calamity. Yeah. Probably not an improvement. Libertarian controversies, how government impedes recovery, economic reasoning, the state, the Rothbardian analysis, the fight of the century redux, Murphy versus Smith, the sovereign debt crisis, the State of the Economy, a web conference with Robert P. Murphy, Libertarian and Modern Philosophers, Production and the Market Process, the Social Theory of Hoppe. Hoppe. Is it Hop or Hoppy? I don't know. I like Hoppe. A lot of people don't. Not because I think Hoppe is brilliant, but because he's a curmudgeon. Keynes, Krugman, and the Crisis, The Road to Serfdom, Despotism Then and Now, Ayn Rand and Objectivism by David Gordon, The American Prison State, Austrian Economics 101, or 1, Praxeology Through Price Theory, How to Know, The Epistemology of Ludwig von Mises, Capitalism and Socialism, Art Carden, Rethinking Intellectual Property, blah, 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 blah. Understanding the Business Cycle, Great Hyperinflations in World History. See, this would be good to have. You know, it'd be good to have a little article here that lists out in bullet point form the great hyperinflations in world history that people can use when arguing on the internet or making videos or writing in their blogs. So, what does the Mises Institute offer us? It offers these courses. These are great courses. And so through these donations in 2007, 3.58 million in donations, they offer these free courses. Oh wait, no, they're not free. You have to charge for the courses. Okay, so it's not a free thing. In fact, it's almost as much as like a college, it seems like. I don't know how much college courses cost, how much it is for each college course at a community college. I don't know how much a course is at ITT Tech. I don't know how long are these courses. Let's look here. June 15th to August 16th. So, like, 2 months. January 10th to February 28th. Month and a half. Let's get this one at the top. Classical Economics. It's 6 weeks. Oh, it says right here. 6 weeks. 8 weeks. By About 1 month. 1 month. 2 months. 1 month. Month and a half, excuse me. Month and a half. Like, what we're looking at here. And I have to wonder, this 3.58 million that's going to the Mises Institute, what's it doing? What's it doing? Well, I mean, one could say that the Mises Institute provides an intellectual foundation. And I don't know anymore, though. I mean, I don't know, like, because here's the thing. I remember arguing with Spock Talk about defense. You know, about defense in a stateless society. And when I looked for answers from guys like Stefan Molyneux, from guys like Hoppe, from guys like Rothbard, they were worthless solutions in regards to defense. Hoppe's solution to defense was insurance. Like, insurance companies would provide defense. And, of course, and he's saying, well, these insurance companies are really huge. It would take, for example, 20% of their claims, for example, to be cashed in instantaneously for any of these insurance companies that we have today to go under. They have a huge buffer. Okay. And Hoppe's argument is that, and so what would happen is that an invading country would have to destroy about 20% of all property for the insurance company to go under. Well, that may be true if the insurance company stays around that long. And this is so simple. All that has to happen is that an invading state has to make it unprofitable to insure the stateless society. That's it. It doesn't have to bankrupt the insurance company. It just has to make it unprofitable. And that's how. And from that, defense is not going to be worth it. And moreover, it doesn't solve the free rider problem. You know, because an individual is still best off, the sociopath is still best off if he doesn't get war insurance. And Hoppe's solution is to bundle it, but why is it going to be bundled? You know, if you're going to bundle it, well, the only way I could see it bundling is if you make it common law for it to be bundled, and once you get to that point, you're coming up with a common law solution. Now, I don't think this common law solution regarding the insurance agencies would work. I don't think it would work. I think that the only thing that would work is a common law tax, basically, a tax in a stateless society to pay for defense. And of course, this opens up for common law taxes for other things, for welfare, for schools, and all sorts of stuff. It does. It opens that up. Will that come about? I don't think so. And I will have to explain why later. But let's look at the front page of the Ludwig von Mises Institute. What do they have on the front page? Well, what they have on the front page is just eyeballing it. There's a little picture here, a few pictures here, a little video here. You have anti-capitalist, barbarians at the gate. Who's saying this? Some guy. Larry Sechrest. S-E-C-H-R-E-S-T. Down here at the bottom, online courses. They have the online courses. They have upcoming events. You know. Featured articles, New York Fed, Leave the Building, Capitalist Vistas, Walt Whitman, and Spontaneous Order, The Economics and Politics of My Job. That's okay. Think Tanks and Liberty by Gary North. I have no doubt that these are all good articles. You know, the Mises Institute, so the Mises Institute didn't really help in regards to defense, in regards to helping out with defense. They're quite useless, and Stefan Molyneux was useless. Donations funding some nukes. Now, the thing with Stefan Molyneux's solution, the donations for nukes, I don't doubt that there's enough, that they'll get enough donations to have nukes. I don't doubt that. I don't doubt the logistics of that. What I doubt is that it'll work. Like, let's say you have a stateless society, some people donate and they have nukes. Okay, then a state invades, and what are you going to do? You're going to fire the nukes? No, see, that's the thing about having a standing army. The state can invade with their standing army and plow over an area. You know, they don't have to use nukes. The state doesn't have to go nuclear. You have to go nuclear in order to defend yourself. And once you go nuclear, you're done. Okay, so you can't go nuclear. You know, the threat is a bluff. It's a bluff, and that's the end of it. So the Mises Institute didn't help out with defense. Roads. I had a video on roads. How to deal with roads, and Walter Block helped out a little bit here and there. But Walter Block's solution, if you see my videos on roads, you can go ahead and see that. Basically, with Walter Block, every roadway is an artery, and Walter Block has no conception of capillary roads in his solutions. That's basically the short course of his book. Yeah, that's what I have to say. He treats every road and every intersection as like a to be privately owned, like a highway. He has no conception of public ownership in a stateless society in his solutions, and so his writings on roads are nice. They're nice, but they're not fantastic. And moreover, here's another thing. If not for the Mises Institute, would Walter Block not have written his book on roads? Would we not have access to that? Okay, how about, and I'll tell you another thing. I was looking around the Mises Institute for answers to hard problems, right? Hard problems like fishing rights and ocean pollution in a stateless society. Now, I come up with a solution for typical, for example, air pollution. What you do is you have a, what's the name of it? I forgot the name. The name's escaping me. Class action lawsuit for all the people who are affected by the pollution. And the factory basically every year gets sued. Every year the factory has to pay a class action lawsuit to all the people who are determined to have suffered from the pollution that the factory is producing, right? And it's a cost. And basically the factory knows that every year it's going to be sued. So yeah, it's basically a pollution tax almost. You could call it being sued every year, or you could just call it a tax that they pay every year. But they're paying for the pollution. They're paying for the negative externality that they have to pay, right? So there you go. What about things with positive externalities? Well, that's a little bit more difficult, but positive externality that cannot be individuated. Well, people can work together in communities. You can even have common law taxes in order to foster things with positive externalities that cannot be captured by the provider of the positive externality. An example escapes me. I don't think schools really fall under this category. I don't think schools are really a problem in terms of their positive externality. I don't think sending people to get educations for lots and lots of years is a good thing. I don't think schools are quite the positive externalities that social democrats tend to think they are. But I don't find the solutions from the Mises Institute to be very compelling or very useful. So in terms of an intellectual foundation, I think Rothbard and DiLorenzo do some good history. But of course, I haven't gone through and verified Rothbard or DiLorenzo's claims. I haven't gone through the primary sources that they've read through. I haven't done that, so I'm not certain of that. But I presume that their history is pretty good. But Rothbard was writing long before the Mises Institute, and that stuff would exist without the Mises Institute. I believe at the beginning of the Mises Institute, they collected a whole bunch of writings from Ludwig von Mises and Murray Rothbard that were basically like sitting in storage and not access to the world. So that was good. But that's already been done, and I'm kind of like, what have you done for me lately? Where are these millions of dollars going? You could say that this website makes all those materials available. Well, I mean, how much does that cost? How much does it cost to maintain the website? How much does it cost to maintain these articles and writers? There are tons of sites that do things like this. There's tons of sites that get all sorts of writers. I know a guy. I have a friend on YouTube who wrote an article for the Mises Institute, and he's not brilliant. He's like a history teacher at some JUCO, and he wrote for the Mises Institute. They're not like paying like really big names to write here. They have these conferences, but these conferences pay for themselves. They have these classes pay for themselves. So I'm just wondering, what exactly are you buying from the Mises Institute? And I'm thinking it's a bunch of rich libertarians who are buying peace of mind, kind of like rich people who donate to charity. Like, I'll throw a few bucks to Africa and I feel good about myself. Throw a few bucks to the cause of liberty and I feel good about myself, without really getting in there, without really getting into the thick of it, thinking what's really going to have a real effect, which is what I'm thinking about all the time. What's going to have a real effect? What are people in the middle? What are centrists? What are apolitical people? Are they going to read this stuff? Are they going to go to the Mises Institute website and read Capitalist Vistas, Walt Whitman and the Spontaneous Order? No doubt that Walt Whitman had some fascinating things to say. I have no doubt about that. I have no doubt that it's a fine article, okay? But it's not worth millions of dollars, and it's not something that's going to convince fence-sitters, and it's not something that's really going to advance liberty that much. And moreover, the Mises Institute is eminently unhelpful with the problem of defense. It's eminently unhelpful with its libertarian ethics getting in the way of how law will really work in a stateless society. It's kind of absolutist non-aggression principle ideas and kind of these deontological derivations of property norms are kind of silly and don't work. And one, they're wrong. They're I don't want to go into that. They're not true. Okay, very simply, like nothing is objective. Okay, it's not correct, and it's not good in a debate. It's not useful in a debate, or in coming up with solutions to these kinds of things. For example, for scientific research, I learned about, when searching for real solutions to the positive externality of scientific research, I saw a video by a guy, Terence Keeley. And from that, I listened to what Terence Keeley said. Okay. And so that's an important issue, scientific research. Thunderfoot brought that up on YouTube. Thunderfoot brought up the problem of scientific research. Okay. Now, I didn't go look at it because Thunderfoot thought it up. I saw a bunch of people brought it up to me before that, and I went and tried to figure that out, because I'm biased that the stateless society will have a solution to all these things, because the state formed from religious cults, and because of that and because I know that's the origin, I am biased against that origin of the state. So I don't think the state is necessary for anything, right? And that is why I have this bias against it. In the same way I have the bias, something that's been around long and is doing things. Its origins were psychotic, literally, as in people having psychoses and seeing things. So that's why I have that bias against the state. Anyway, and so I found Terence Keeley, saw a talk that he gave at some young libertarians group meetup in Oxford, and I went and read the Google preview of his book. Now, let me ask you something. Why isn't Terence Keeley's book on scientific research, and I forgot the title, it was a long time ago, it was a decent book. Why hasn't the Mises Institute bought the rights to that book and put it on their site? So that when someone asks the problem of scientific research, they can find it there. Like, why don't they do that instead of, let's just look around here. Look at all this useless stuff. Useless. Now, I'm looking at this course catalog thing. Maybe this is useful. Maybe this is useful in terms of something to have once you're in power. I heard some libertarian strategist or some guy at some conference, I forget what he said. I forget who he even was. He said something like, you got to have an intellectual infrastructure in place, waiting in the wings, so that when things collapse, you have this basically high pressure to low pressure. And when you have a lot of intellectual infrastructure, such as in the Mises Academy, that's like a high pressure environment. And as soon as the old order collapses, these ideas push through. And in reality, a whole bunch of different schools are going to push in, and you're going to have, a polyglot thing. You're going to have something like Weimar Republic Germany, where suddenly the communists are getting seats, the center party's getting seats, various ultranationalist parties are getting seats, separatist parties are getting seats. It's a complete mess. No one's won out at that point, and it's all in flux, and eventually one wins out. And in the United States, I believe that's true as well. I believe one party has won out, the Social Democrat Party. The Social Democrats are in power in the United States. And they call themselves the Republicans, which Republic is just representative democracy, and Democrats, which is democracy. And when someone says, I am for democracy, 95% of the time they mean representative democracy anyway. So it's kind of silly. Because a republic is just a representative democracy. Democracy, when generally referred to in Athens and in Rome, and virtually everywhere on the planet, is representative democracy. There's few sparse cases of direct democracy, a few referendums. Even Switzerland's a representative democracy. So, yeah. So even the names between the two parties are not even different. So yeah, and I'm just thinking, like, if I had frickin' a tenth of the funds that the Mises Institute gets, like, what I would do is I would make a very high quality video, like the Zeitgeist video series. And I would spend money, make a really nice thing, make a really fantastic single media presentation, and buy a bunch of Facebook ads for it. Okay, and make some, a conception of law that isn't ass. Okay, come up with a conception of the state that isn't ass. Come up with solutions for defense that isn't ass. All right, have solutions for scientific research. And moreover, the Independent Institute, they have this book on fishing, on how to deal with fishing rights in a stateless society. And it's a book that I really want, but it's like a paper. It's like a paper, and it costs like $500 or something. And I'm not spending that money. Why doesn't the Mises Institute buy the rights to that and put that on their site? So that people can see it, and the average, Joe libertarian can have an answer to when a statist asks about fishing rights in a stateless society. Something practical, something we can use. Right now, fuck... for the average Joe, for the 90% of people, the idea of the Federal Reserve is absurd. Just know that they're basically poofing money into existence. What does that cause? That causes the number of existing goods prices to go up. Okay? And the people who get that first, the inflation doesn't come right away. So the people who get that money first get to buy things at pre-inflationary prices. And so the effect is a wealth transfer to the people who get the money first from the people who get the money last. Right? Because the people who get the money last are facing the effects of inflation before the money ever even gets to them. Right? And so banks it ends up being just a wealth transfer to the people who get the money first, the banks. And this is constantly going on. Right? And that's it. And the man on the street's not going to argue against that. The man on the street hates the banks anyway. So all this pounding against the Fed is not useful. Okay? The intellectual case against the Fed has been done to death. We don't need another useless argument against the Fed. What would be useful is maybe a video like a bullet, a super video which gets 40 million views, which you promote to an extent that it gets 40 million views. Okay, that would be useful. Okay, that's something that could be of use. I think these guys are too far up their own asses to really want to figure out how to actually advance liberty, as they claim to. As no doubt they do want to advance it. I have no doubt in the sincerity of their motives, but I think they get up in their own asses too much, and they're not. They don't spend enough time on YouTube, I guess. As strange as that sounds, not that I probably spend too much time, but I think they spend not enough time on YouTube or looking at You know? I'm just what a resource dump, what a money suck. And I'm just thinking just how much more like anyone could do with just a fraction of the resources that they have.